I transmigrated into a domineering and arrogant princess. The prince consort detests me, and I don't like him either. He disapproves of me keeping a young lover, and I look down on him for being a rough and crude man. Later, the prince consort's entire family was sentenced to exile. Not only did I not offer him any help, but I also kicked him while he was down under the reluctant gazes of the entire city's people. He was pelted with a basket of rotten eggs, leaving him thoroughly chilled to the bone. The favor of my father, the emperor, and my mother, the empress, is the foundation upon which I act as I please. Yet all this favor is predicated on value. My father used me to eliminate the entire clan of the imperial son-in-law, whose achievements overshadowed his own. The Empress Dowager drugged me and sent me to the Turks as a plaything in exchange for troops. In the end, I became the discarded pawn thrown off the city wall by my royal brother, and my husband chose to watch coldly from the sidelines. A life lived in haste. Yet no one ever truly loved me. When I entered the novel, there was only an hour left before my husband's family was to be confiscated. A group of young eunuchs with powdered faces surrounded me, chattering away, but all I could think about was my tragic ending. In the book, I was betrothed to Li Changze, the youngest son of the Duke of England. After marriage, he despised me for keeping a young lover, and I loathed him for being a rough man. We were young, and we could have lived our lives without ever crossing paths, but he just had to bully my delicate, utterly helpless pretty boy. When the Duke of England's household was exiled, I took to the streets to humiliate the imperial son-in-law in revenge for my pretty boy. That day, I stood proudly with a basket of rotten eggs on the path the prisoner's cart would take, ready to see him off in style. The Duke of England's family has always been loyal and heroic, and even now, as they have become prisoners, their status in the hearts of the people remains unshaken. None of the passing commoners took any action. Only I specifically chased after Li Changze to hit him. When the first rotten egg was thrown, he merely glanced at me sideways, then closed his eyes, gripping the iron chains on his wrists tightly. The egg mixture was murky and dark, with suspicious flocculent substances floating in the viscous liquid, dripping down his hair. Each drop left a slippery trail, like a slug crawling by. He showed no intention of engaging in a verbal fight with me, but I was in the mood to provoke him. 2, 3, half a basket gone. He actually managed to hold back. I was furious. Did he know how hard it was for me to collect so many rotten eggs? His disregard completely provoked me. I circled around to face him directly and hurled a rotten egg straight at his face. Li Changze, aren't you tough? Try being tough in front of this princess again. Let you bully my little tortoise servant again. Let you go to the emperor to tattle, making me get scolded. Let you look down on me. Now you're not even as good as a eunuch. Don't you love looking down on people with your nose in the air? Open your dog eyes and see. Now it's this princess looking down on you with her nose. I said one sentence, smashed one, using all my strength, making the muscles on his face tremble uncontrollably. Yellow-green juice splattered everywhere, like disgusting poisonous mushrooms blooming. It brilliantly illuminated the darkness within my heart. I thoroughly enjoyed smashing it. Throughout the entire process, Li Changze did not utter a single word. Only Li's mother pleaded with heartache. Her plea was silenced by Li's father, who was proud and unyielding. Li's mother could only sob with her teeth clenched. Soon, Li Changze's thin, tattered clothes were soaked through with rotten egg yolk. The north wind howled, the late winter chill still piercing to the bone, as the last snowflakes drifted down from the sky. That foul, sock-smelling mucus solidified on Li Changze's body. The invasion from the inside out was destined to make it unforgettable for the rest of his life. I regained my freedom once more. After returning to the princess's residence, I replaced all the young eunuchs with real men, a total of 18 households. Life was incredibly enjoyable, but I never expected that I would meet Li Changze again. This time, the wheel of fortune has turned. I became a piece of trash tossed around. Li Changze became a rebel who left the emperor with no way out, only one step away from seizing power. The emperor hated Li Changze for rebelling and sought to ally with the Turks. To demonstrate sincerity, he turned his attention to me, or perhaps, he transferred his hatred for Li Changze onto me. who was once a woman of the Li family. Of course, I refused. It was the Empress Dowager who personally drugged me and sent me onto the bridal sedan for the marriage alliance. I was married off to the Turkic Khan, who was even older than my father. The old Khan did not grant me the dignity befitting a princess. Instead, he handed me over to all his followers. A princess of noble birth endures endless humiliation in a foreign land. The delicate and tender princess is merely a curiosity to the Turks. In the midst of heavy snowfall, I am passed around like a trophy among the savage Turks. I don't know how many times I've given birth, only that none of the children survived. Neither the physical nor the psychological torment could extinguish my will to survive, because I hate my mother's ruthlessness, hate Li Chang's rebellion, which brought all this upon me. I endure the torment, waiting for the day I can avenge myself on my enemies. After an unknown length of time, my elder brother finally came to take me away. When one is at the end of their rope, they indulge in fantasies like me, thinking that my elder brother had finally come to his senses and was rescuing me from this suffering. Little did I know, saving me was merely to use me as a hostage. My royal brother is a laughingstock, threatening Li Chang'e with my life to force him to retreat. But Li Chang'e harbors a deep hatred for the Murong royal family, and what's more, I once publicly humiliated him, just as back then, when he was inside the cage and I was outside, teasing him. He seemed to be watching the show, waiting for the emperor to lose his temper. With a light, dismissive "as you wish," he sealed the end of my life. He watched helplessly as the emperor, in a fit of rage, threw me off the city wall. Thousands of troops trampled over me. The war ended, and my corpse was a mangled, blooded mess too. After sorting everything out, I found myself in a dire situation, surrounded on all sides. I don't have any special abilities, nor do I understand politics. I'm just an ordinary rookie, forced into the role of a character. For a moment, I couldn't find anyone to rely on or trust. For Li Chang'e, I brought this upon myself, but to my father and mother, I am both pitiable and pitiful. Born noble, died lowly. I am nothing but a puppet, controlled all my life, used by my father, abandoned by my mother, and killed by my brother. When times are peaceful, I am the cherry on top. When disaster looms, I become their shield. Give me love and honor, but also give me coldness and ruthlessness. Shape me into a twisted personality with your own hands. As a child, the Empress focused all her attention on my elder brother, and I, in order to seek attention, went to great lengths to grab the spotlight. After one failure after another, I completely let go of myself and became arrogant and unruly. I started collecting male concubines at the age of 12, calling them turtle slaves. Everyone indulged me. My father, the emperor, held a selection of concubines every 3 years, yet I, the princess, held one every year. New eunuchs enter the palace in batches, replaced one after another. My interest in them fades faster than my bad reputation spreads. I increasingly hold men in contempt, including Li Chang'e. I can't stand his nose in the air, looking down on everyone as if he were more noble than me. A princess, I dream of bending his spine and pressing him to crawl at my feet. In the end, I was the first to fall at his feet. He hates me for humiliating him in public, but not as much as my father and brother do. In the 15th year of Jing Yuan, the Duke of Ying returned victorious to the capital. My father, the emperor, held a grand celebration banquet for them. At the banquet, I was betrothed to Li Chang'e, who had earned military merit. This was not a reward, but an insult and an excuse. My father wanted to frame the Li family, accusing them of being ungrateful, harboring ill intentions, and resenting marrying me, a notorious princess. Simply because there were no more wars in Great Xia, the Duke of England's estate lost its reason for existence. Only half a year into my marriage, my father couldn't wait any longer and used clumsy evidence to fabricate a wrongful case. Showing no sense of justice, the Duke of England's 4 sons died on the battlefield, only to be rewarded with their loyal bones buried in the yellow sand. And the emperor's suspicion of his loyal subjects. After being exiled, the successive tragic deaths of the Li clan members ignited Li Chang'e's ambition. He rebelled, and he succeeded because he was the great male lead in the book, whose family was destroyed by the Murong clan, and who personally annihilated the Murong clan in return. I don't know if the male lead's fate is easy to change, but I know I don't have the great talent and strategy to be an empress. Perhaps he is the best choice after weighing the pros and cons, at least in the book. It was he who, after the war, gathered the scattered bodies for me and buried them in the sandy wasteland. His character still bears the mark of kindness. Therefore, in order to survive, I can only accelerate the progress of the imperial son-in-law's rebellion. I should be grateful that at this moment, Li Changze only dislikes me, not yet to the point of hatred. Apart from that basket of rotten eggs, I am almost evenly matched with him. Every time I suppress him, he fights back, never willing to suffer the slightest loss under my hand. I indiscriminately took the side of the little pimp who had tried to scam him. Demanding an explanation, Li Changze then tied up that little pimp and beat him half to death right in front of me. I was so furious that my teeth itched, yet there was nothing I could do about it. He was far more adept at protecting his own interests than many of the weak-willed female protagonists. Rather than preserving the glory of the Murong royal family, I would prefer to make a living under Li Changze. Even if I don't understand political strategies, I can still provide spoilers. 3. However, at the moment, the most important thing is to find the so-called evidence of guilt. I vaguely remember it being something like a dragon robe. Time was of the essence, and I bolted towards the Duke of England's study. Inside the study, the Duke of England, Li Zhuang, along with his heir, Li Changyang, and Li Changze, were present. With disheveled hair and panting heavily, I exclaimed, "Quick, tell me, does the mansion have a secret chamber? The Emperor is about to send people to confiscate our property, accusing you of hiding a dragon robe." They stared at me in shock, as if I had gone mad. I didn't bother to explain, directly grabbing Li Changze by the collar. In less than half an hour, the imperial decree for confiscation will arrive. If you don't believe me, send someone to check at the palace gate. My actions were indeed hasty and impolite, but there was no time. The Duke of England asked suspiciously, "Where did the princess hear this from?" I forced myself to stay calm. "Never mind where I found out, just go and search the study, the secret chamber, the hidden compartments. Don't leave any of them unchecked. Could it be that the princess is playing tricks again?" The heir muttered softly. My past frivolous image had left too deep an impression. No wonder they thought this was just another one of my pranks. Standing in the room, I watched as the 3 of them cast suspicious glances my way. All the lies I had told, the troubles I had caused, and the people I had teased over the years now turned into invisible shackles. I opened my mouth and defended myself directly. "I'm serious, I'm not joking." The Duke of England and the heir's gaze seemed to pierce through me. I wasn't afraid of their scrutiny, but I was helpless about my worthless credibility. Li Changze impatiently grabbed my wrist. "Enough, stop acting crazy here." At that moment, a servant came running in a panic. "Master, it's bad. The Imperial Guards have surrounded the place." My heart sank. It's over. Too late. Taking advantage of Li Changze's momentary shock, I broke free from his grip and sent the servant away. I strived to steady my panicked state of mind when faced with situations. Taking a deep breath, I finally spoke in a low voice, "Where exactly is the secret room?" It was then that Li Changyang reacted, quickly turning the inkstone, revealing a small hidden chamber behind the bookshelf. Inside were all the weapons collected by the Duke of Britain, laid out in full view. With no sign of the so-called dragon robe, I'm lost and can only continue to spoil the plot. The Li family is too powerful. How can the Emperor continue to tolerate them? He came today to raid the Li family, charging them with treason. But from start to finish, he won't bring my father to trial. Instead, he'll make an example of my eldest brother. And in the end, my brother will confess. Absurd. The Duke of England's eyes widened in anger. Not sure if he was directing it at me or the Emperor. Li Changyang shook his head, his gaze firm. "Impossible. I will not acknowledge it." I negated his will. "You must acknowledge it. You have to." The Duke of England had only 2 sons left. The frail eldest son Li Changyang and the younger son Li Changze. In the book, the Crown Prince once advised his father, the Emperor, to demonstrate benevolence, considering the contributions of the Duke of England, and to allow him to confess his crimes without execution. only exile. The Duke of England was a loyal minister and a man of strong principles, who had never entertained thoughts of rebellion and would not confess to false accusations. The interrogator bypassed him, the principal culprit, and instead arrested the heir, Li Changyang, to force a confession. Then, the Li family confessed. No one knows how he recruited them, because he's dead. They say he committed suicide out of guilt. I continue to output, if you don't confess, you'll die, and the Li family's confession will still bear your fingerprint. Sister-in-law is pregnant, and after your death, she will not be able to withstand the shock and will die from hemorrhage. Confessing is only temporary, only by living can there be a chance for change. I hurriedly finished speaking and turned to the Duke of England. Father, do not sacrifice your child's life over a false charge. Blind loyalty is not true loyalty. You have protected the world. Now, please endure a little and protect your wife and children, will you? He had wielded a blade all his life, enduring the elements, and his temples were already streaked with grey. Half a century old, the once straight and tall figure now quietly slumped. Li Changze and his brothers also fell silent. They were not dull-witted, they had long sensed the emperor's intentions. On the day the Duke of England returned to the capital, he voluntarily handed over his military token and declined all invitations from noble families, conducting himself with utmost discretion. However, this sudden change still came unexpectedly. The sound of the proclamation outside grew louder, and the expressions of the three became even more grave. I have said all I can, the rest is up to them. I bowed deeply, perhaps the first time this body has bent for them. As a junior, with this farewell, I hope father and elder brother take care, and I look forward to the day we meet again. The consort stays. Please inform the eunuch that the consort and the princess are arguing in the study. I have turned this place upside down. The hidden location of the dragon robe in the book is in the study, and the emperor's men will surely focus their attention there. I cannot be suspected yet. After everyone had left, Li Changze's gaze fixed intently on me. How did you know? I shook my head wearily. A secret. There was still a tough battle ahead, and I didn't want to talk about supernatural matters. There was still some time before the decree was announced, so I sat facing him. Li Changze, do you hate me? No hate, but no fondness either. That's good, as long as there's no hate. After a pause, I continued, my voice calm, my words alluring. Then rebel, the emperor is unkind, and the Li family cannot escape a tragic end. It's better for you to strike first and overthrow the Murong royal family. His eyes sharpened, and he gave me a cold glance, as if trying to gauge my intentions. Murong WN, you also bear the surname Murong. I shrugged, indicating that I didn't care. Considering your fate, do you think mine will be any better? I would rather bet that Li Changze won't drive me to utter ruin. He once collected the body of that me, whether it was because I was once a member of the Li family or because my end was partly his doing, at least. He isn't utterly heartless. For the rest of my life, I will find a corner where I won't be in his way and live quietly. When the Imperial Guards rushed in, I was tearing at Li Changze's hair, crying out, you scoundrel, bullying my little turtle slave again. This princess is going to castrate you. Seeing this, the deputy commander of the Imperial Guards awkwardly bowed and said, Princess, I am here under His Majesty's orders to conduct a search. Please grant us your cooperation. I stopped my actions, revealing an expression that seemed to say, what a pleasant surprise. I released Li Changze and pointed at his nose, exclaiming, search. You must find the evidence of his crimes and chop off his head. Due to my interference, they were unable to find incriminating evidence in the study. Instead, it was found in the wardrobe of the Duchess of England, and they planted the evidence on the spot. The entire household of the Duke of England was taken away. There were ministers who pleaded for the Li family, but they could not withstand the emperor's suppression. First, if the ruler demands the subject's death, the subject has no choice but to die. Second, the Li family is a prominent target. Only when the big tree falls can the smaller trees have a chance to thrive. More people are waiting to devour the Li family's power. 10 days later, the Li family admitted guilt, and this time, Li Changyang did not die, for the atmosphere in the imperial study was heavy and oppressive. The emperor asked me what compensation I desired. He disregarded my wishes and arranged my marriage. leaving me a living widow, a classic case of giving a carrot after a stick. I sat before the imperial desk, putting on a sinister expression. Father, I want Li Changze dead. The imperial edict in the emperor's hand slammed onto the desk with a thud, and his brows furrowed tightly. Nonsense, I have already pardoned the Li family's lives. How can I go back on my word? I narrowed my eyes and clenched my teeth. Quietly, make him disappear. I forbid it. I easily changed my mind, curling my lips into a twisted smile. All right, father, then I want to sleep with Li Changze. The speed at which I changed my expression caught the emperor off guard. What on earth are you trying to do? One moment you want him dead, the next you want to sleep with him. A young lady like you should know some shame. Hearing this, I couldn't help but think to myself, when have I ever known shame? Yet my expression twisted dramatically. If I can't kill him, I'll disgust him to death. He beat my little turtle slave and looks down on me for keeping one, never letting me get close. I'm determined to go against him. The emperor had a headache. Li Changze is imprisoned in the dungeon. How do you plan to take revenge? To achieve my goal, I would stop at nothing. Then I'll go to the prison. If this gets out, it will damage the royal family's reputation. The emperor disapproved, thinking it was utterly improper for a princess to go to a prison to favor a prisoner. I assure you, as long as father doesn't say it, and I don't say it, no one will ever know. Father seemed helpless, waving his hand. Go, go, don't make it too ugly. The Li family has suppressed father for so many years. How could he let this opportunity slip by? He, for the sake of his reputation, forbade the use of torture on the Li family, yet deep down, there's darkness. He also wants to see his infamous daughter crush the unyielding spirit of the Li family. The sinister plot behind the word sleep is the main event. In the book, the emperor didn't have long to gloat. After reclaiming the military authority of the Duke of Britain, he was complacent and indulged in alchemy, but he met with sudden disaster due to excessive joy and suddenly passed away. Later, the crown prince, my full brother, ascended the throne, and my mother became the Empress Dowager. These close relatives, who were also the most poisonous, pushed me step by step into the abyss in this life. Their endings will surely come earlier. 5. In the dark and damp prison, a turbid atmosphere pervaded in the innermost cell. The prison door slowly opened, and by the light of the candle, Li Changze sat on a simple bed, wearing plain clothes and with disheveled hair. He had a strong and unyielding spirit, and even in the prison, his rugged charm could not be concealed. After confirming the look in his eyes, he was the man I wanted to possess. But alas, the weather is unfavorable, the land is unsuitable, and people are not in harmony, so it's the princess. Li Changze's tone was indifferent, yet his posture was composed. Wang Dequan had 2 young eunuchs with him, glaring menacingly from the side. I strode forward with an arrogant demeanor, gently lifting his chin and caressing it suggestively. Li Changze, do you know why you were asked to cleanse yourself today? It was this princess who begged her father for this privilege, specially to come. My voice trailed off as I leaned in, my eyelashes fluttering lightly. After confirming that Li Changze had received my signal, I immediately switched to a provocative tone, gazing into his dark eyes as my red lips parted slightly to utter 2 words. Playing you. Li Changze suddenly stood up, growling, "How dare you?" His tall figure rose abruptly, nearly causing me to lose my balance. I cautiously directed the young attendant, tie his hands to the railing and stuff a cloth in his mouth. Li Changze, who had not eaten for days, was quickly subdued and humiliated in a spread eagle position. "Don't touch me, get out, go play with your eunuch." Li Changze's mouth was gagged, heavy breathing and bulging veins all revealed his anger. I calmly told him, "I can turn you into the eunuch you hate the most." I picked up a dagger and lightly tapped his crotch. He was like a hen on the chopping block right now, and the eggs he laid were at my mercy. "Leave the things here, everyone out, and stay far away." Wang Dequan kept looking back with every step he took. I climbed onto Li Changze's abdomen. Li Changze struggled violently, twisting his waist in resistance, but I seized the opportunity to firmly grasp his lapel and tore it open. Only after Wang Gonggong's figure disappeared from the corner of my eye did I finally relax and let go of my tension, unaware for a moment The small waist beneath me twisted so fiercely that it nearly threw me off. I slapped him. Stop wriggling like a worm. He gritted his teeth. You, alright, stop acting, everyone's gone. Lee Changza immediately calmed down. I took a meat bun out of my arms and held it to his lips. Lee Changza reflexively opened his mouth and bit down. To keep the Lee family subdued on their journey, they had barely been fed these past few days, draining their energy. I obediently sat on him and took out the second bun. Placing it in his hand, I came to bring you something. Tomorrow you'll be on your way, and even though father wants to put on a show, he's allowing you to travel south in a prison cart. Seeing him finish the buns, I took out another handful of beef slices from in front of my abdomen and stuffed them into his hand. Dried meat has less oil and more energy, making it a must-have snack for prison visits, that's what I said. But take it with a grain of salt. As Lee Changza ate, he watched me magically pull out a cloth shoe, silver notes, underpants, and candy from under my skirt, a pair of worn-out cloth shoes, intentionally distressed to avoid standing out, covered in dust. I placed 10 silver notes in each sole, 3 worth 100 taels, 2 worth 50 taels, 2 worth 10 taels, and 3 worth 1 tael. They're under the insole, which I stitched in place. You'll need to pull hard to break the thread and remove the insole. I'm not skilled enough to create complex mechanisms, so I had to resort to the most straightforward method. The undergarment can be worn without removing your pants. Just slide it through your crotch and tie the strings on both sides to secure it around your waist. Lee Changza, a pure and innocent young man, couldn't comfortably accept discussing intimate clothing so openly. He was left speechless, his face turning dark. Where did you learn that from? I ignored his embarrassment and smiled smugly. Of course, it was my not-so-smart big head that thought of it. There are also silver notes sewn inside, a few small pieces of silver, and some cold medicine. I also prepared some candy, small in size but high in energy. I've already thought of a place to hide it for him. Hide this bag of candy in your crotch. Since it's not too big there, it can be easily concealed. Take one out and eat it when no one is paying attention, like when you're in the bathroom. After giving the instructions, I slowly raised my eyes and saw his lips pressed tightly together. It seemed like he was trying his best to restrain something, and his cheeks were slightly puffed out from the effort. It's inexplicable. 6. Lee Changza huffed angrily. You're not big at all. I rolled my eyes. I'm almost dead, and you're worried about this. I also stuck 20 small golden beans onto the crown of his head. I didn't even let his armpit hair go, sticking a few here and there using rosin glue. It's waterproof and preservative. I am extremely satisfied with my masterpiece. Pushing the limits within the limited space on him, I have pondered countless strategies in my dreams, facing relentless pursuit. Finally, I have the chance to put my rambling thoughts into practice. The only regret: I cannot go to see my father and mother. This is all I can give you. It's already very good. Lee Changza's voice was hoarse. The quiet atmosphere was too unusual. I was afraid that Eunuch Wang might become suspicious and might come in to check. I urged Lee Changza in a low voice. It's too quiet. You should make a sound. Slap me twice, or I won't be able to cry out. My lips twitched. The male lead in the book wasn't the type to actively seek out a beating. I hit him, and he cried out, but there wasn't a hint of pain in his voice. I should go now. Let me tie you up again. Lee Changza didn't hesitate, obediently extending his hand, like a little puppy with a vintage filter, his appearance somewhat alluring. I took a deep breath, clearing my mind of distractions. The rope wound around his wrist. Loop after loop, I tied it tightly, then stuffed the gag back into his mouth, covering his eyes with a handkerchief. Then, I climbed onto his waist again. Never expected her. I collapsed onto his body, my tone teasing. The royal eunuch has a sharp nose. He suddenly froze, his breathing growing even more rapid. I rubbed against him, waiting for him to be completely consumed by the flames. Hey, his right hand now free, he tore off the cloth covering his eyes, gripped my wrist tightly, and pulled me toward him. The peach blossom eyes were slightly red at the corners, shimmering with an alluring gleam, and even the voice carried a lingering tenderness. Why don't you come over? I was bewitched by him, but the moment he pressed close to me, I retreated to the edge of the bed and snatched my wrist back, suppressing the heat in my cheeks. I hurriedly buried myself in the corner of the wall, You do it yourself, I don't want to. Behind me, Li Changze let out a mocking laugh and began to rustle with movements. 7. The process is understood by those who know. I cannot describe it, only desperately cover my ears. Li Changze's gaze was scorching, as if he wanted to burn me to ashes. I wanted to cover his eyes again, but found that my handkerchief was no longer usable. Thank you. This time, I'm really leaving. I tied him up, scattered toys all over the floor, and poured wine over them along with Li Changze's body. It was made a complete mess after doing all this. I finally looked at his face. Too clean. I politely and calmly asked for his opinion. Your neck is too clean. Can I take a few bites? As you wish. Li Changze's Adam's apple bobbed slightly. Showing no sign of resistance, I closed my eyes and suddenly leaned in. A glaring red mark wrapped around faint teeth imprints. I guessed it must have hurt. It stood out strikingly against his pale chest. Only the skin exposed to the outside was dark. I raised my hand to mess up my bun, letting my hair fall loose, muttering to myself, it should be fine now. Li Changze's voice carried certainty. Not enough. Murong Wn, you're not like this. There's no blood. What should we do then? I have never harmed anyone. Picking up the wine pot, I took a big gulp. The spicy taste spread in my mouth, sweat surged, and my courage grew. I carved a character into his chest. Li Changze held my hand as he carved it. He pressed down, and I lifted up. Soon, the humiliating character slave took shape. My hands trembled as I watched the blood quickly seep through the skin, like a seal I had stamped. Li Changze looked indifferent, yet my heart was in turmoil. Li Changze, rebel sooner. Eliminate all those who have ever bullied you. My only responsibility is to accelerate the ignition of the flames of war. How those flames spread is a matter for him. As the male lead, I can reveal the fate of the Li family, for as a princess, I have my own means, but how he should stage a rebellion is not something my character should understand. Immersion-style chicken blood was politely declined by Li Changze. It includes you too. Of course not. It seems not quite possible. I must be drunk, otherwise how could I have said, or, why don't you take advantage of me back, and I absolutely won't resist. Li Changze quickly agreed, afraid I might change my mind. Deal. It feels a bit like I've sold myself. I bit down on his exposed collarbone, driven by some inexplicable force. This was the final mark. 8. Stepping out of the dark cell. The sunlight was so bright that I could barely keep my eyes open. With a satisfied expression, I walked toward Eunuch Wang, asking for the contraceptive potion. Eunuch Wang was taken aback for a moment, then quickly put on his signature ingratiating smile. He hurriedly replied, "This old servant will see to it right away." In no time, it was brought before me. It had been prepared long in advance. There is ultimately a difference between what one asks for oneself and what is given by the Emperor's command. The still steaming contraceptive soup, its unpleasant medicinal odor wafting straight into my nose. I endured the discomfort, tilting my head back to swallow it sip by sip. The bitter taste instantly spreading. I shivered, my stomach churning, nearly vomiting on the spot. The first hurdle was finally cleared. 9. Li Changze left that day. It still snowed, and I didn't go to see him off this time. I hope they all endure it and safely reach the land of miasma. The rest of the journey depends on him, and I need to resolve my own troubles. I must leave the capital soon. The weather gradually warmed, and all things revived. It was once again the season for animals to mate, so I dismissed the turtle servants attending the spring banquets and polo matches of the noble families in the capital. I outwardly sought a suitable husband while secretly sorting out the relationships between the various factions. Unfortunately, the entire spring passed, and I still hadn't found a suitable candidate. The fragrant grass bids farewell to spring. The green leaves welcome the summer sun. The Empress Dowager held a flower viewing banquet and once again asked if I had found someone I fancied. I smiled and said, yes, 1 in 10,000. I was referring to Xue Liushu, the eldest son of the Minister of Personnel, who had earned the title of Tanhua in the imperial examinations, came from a prominent family, and had just returned from an official posting outside the capital. But the Empress Dowager was displeased. Since Xue Liushu already had a wife and had a son and a daughter, if it were an ordinary woman, it would have been fine. and the Empress Dowager could have pressured her to leave, but the woman was Fu Yuling, the eldest daughter of Fu Shoufu's family. I was bewitched, convinced that Xue Liushu was the one. I don't care, mother, we agreed this time that I would choose. I want him. If mother doesn't agree, I'll become a nun. I'll pray for grandmother, who loved me the most when she was alive. I always got whatever I wanted from her. Mother had no choice but to send someone to inquire and found out that Xue Liushu and his wife were deeply in love. I felt reassured. It's good that they can't be separated. My mother tried to reason with me, but I refused to listen. Xue Liushu has a wife. I don't mind being a secondary wife. He and his wife are deeply in love, having grown up together since childhood. I'm not going to break them apart. I'm going to join them. They already have children. That's even better. I won't have to give birth, and I can be a mother without pain. I was unyielding, causing a huge uproar. Prime Minister Fu impeached me, and my father reprimanded me. I was so furious and embarrassed that I kidnapped Xue Liushu under the cover of night. At dawn, I threw Xue Liushu, covered in filth and knocked unconscious, back at the minister's residence. Minister Xue was enraged and joined the impeachment campaign. For several days in a row, my actions overshadowed national affairs in the court. Those ministers whose sons and grandsons I had flirted with at the spring banquet didn't spare me either. They all joined in. I became the target of everyone. I was overjoyed. My father, the emperor, finally succumbed to the pressure and issued an edict to confine me to my quarters and administer 20 lashes. I shouted that I wanted to kill Xue's wife, and the empress slapped me across the face. The crystal beads on my head made a crisp and rapid clattering sound. The eunuch delivering the decree and the palace maids were so frightened that they fell silent and knelt in a row. I cupped my burning cheek, my eyes wide with disbelief. Instantly, my lips trembled as I sobbed out my grievance. Mother, you hit me. Father wants to hit me, and now you too. I never want to see you again. I'm going to guard. Grandmother's memorial tablet, mother's usually gentle face twisted with anger, her whole body trembling slightly. Pointing to the door, she shouted sharply, "Go, go now." All right. I was overjoyed inside. She had finally agreed. I had often used this to threaten her, and the repeated psychological intimidation had finally paid off. Let's go then, I shouted and left the capital. I sped along the way, fearing any unexpected obstacles. I rode non-stop toward the nunnery near Hugua Temple. Those unaware might think I was going to be reborn. Actually, I'm in a hurry to shave my head and become a nun. As the cold razor glides over my scalp, strands of hair drift down, and my anxious heart finally settles. All the past glory, wealth, status, and position will be severed along with these strands of hair. This is the path I have chosen for myself. It's better to shave it all off than just to trim 10. The next day, my elder brother arrived with several guards, storming into the nunnery with great force. The heavy carved door slowly opened with a muffled creak, as if breaking through some forbidden seal. In an instant, the nunnery, which had been murmuring with prayers, was silenced as if strangled by an invisible hand. My heart rate accelerated involuntarily. In truth, I am afraid of this elder brother of mine. After years of wielding power, he is no longer the brother who once doted on his sister. The incident at the Duke of England's residence was entirely his doing. He didn't want to leave the stubborn problem to be solved after he took power, so he used his father's hand to eliminate the ministers who were of no use to him. Over the past 6 months, I have done my best to minimize contact with him. I didn't expect the person to come and fetch me would be him, and he was capable of forcibly bringing me back to the palace. I secretly squeezed my sweat-soaked palm, suppressing the fear in my heart. I approached with a calm demeanor. Only I can protect myself. My royal brothers thought I was just throwing a childish tantrum, never expecting that I was serious. His face immediately darkened. Who dares to be so blind as to shave the princess's head? The pressure from someone of higher status was too much for the young nun to bear, and she began to tremble uncontrollably. The abbess stepped forward. "Benefactor," it was. I interrupted her. "Amitabha, it was this humble nun who cut her own hair. Do not let me implicate the innocent monks and nuns." My royal brother reprimanded me for acting recklessly and disregarding the dignity of the royal family. I argued with reason. "Benefactor, Her Majesty the Empress personally granted me permission to become a nun, to pray and chant sutras for the late Empress Dowager. All those in the Empress's palace can testify on my behalf. I turned around and knelt before the Buddha, sincerely saying, "This humble nun knows her past mistakes. She wishes to pray for the Empress Dowager for the rest of her life, both as filial duty and as atonement." Fortunately, he didn't want to argue with me, or perhaps he was certain I would slink back on my own. My elder brother remained silent for a moment, leaving behind a phrase, "Murong Wn, take care of yourself." Before turning and leaving, I murmured softly, "This humble nun's Dharma name is Wukong." Looking up at the Buddha, she gave a sly smile. Later, it became known throughout the land that I had entered monastic life. From then on, there was no longer the Princess Jingwan in the world, only the little nun Wukong. For a long time, every conversation and every action felt like walking a tightrope, always fearing a misstep, but now, I have finally shed the heavy shackles. I can be a happy little nun now. 11. The news of Li Chang's uprising spread throughout Great Xia. It happened a bit earlier than the days described in the book, as if making way for him. The emperor also passed away early. I refused to leave the mountain on the pretext of becoming a monk. To break off, one must do it thoroughly, so as to leave no leverage. My elder brother ascended the throne amidst instability. The military command of the Li family army is in his hands, and he is overly confident. When the emperor was alive, he relied on pretense, with the chief minister Fu supporting him without the suppression from those in power. He has become excessively extravagant. Chief Minister Fu practically holds sway over the court, with government corruption, military generals losing power, and reinforcements failing to arrive. The court lacks capable generals, resulting in consecutive defeats. Later, Minister Fu proposed a marriage alliance with the Turks to attack Li Chang'e from both east and west. He still held a grudge against me for stealing his daughter's heart, and now he had his sights set on me. My elder brother forcibly brought me back to the palace. Since I didn't suffer much in the nunnery, I nurtured myself into a plump and radiant state. To tell the truth, all it takes is a change into luxurious attire and a slight touch-up, and the demeanor of a former princess can be instantly restored. But my head, that's the tricky part. Without a head of black hair, how can one adorn it with elegance? Standing there and adding a remittabher is a surefire way to infuriate everyone. It's less like a political marriage and more like making an enemy. I stand there in my monk's robe, bald-headed, smiling and bowing. "Master, I trust you are well." My elder brother, the emperor, is fuming, yet he can do nothing about it, so I happily return to my nunnery. For this day, I was the most diligent little nun in the convent. When it came to shaving my head, I shaved it so clean, not even a trace was left, shiny and gleaming. 12. I prayed every other day for Li Chang'e to achieve a swift victory and for the country to quickly return to order. It must have been this sincerity that moved the Buddha. Li Chang'e's army advanced like a hot knife through butter, marching triumphantly forward. While the court's forces fell back in defeat, I hold the plot in my hands and step into the game, so the story is bound to bear my mark. Because this time, my royal brother failed to establish contact with the Turks, it was Xue Liushu who took action. By then, he had already become the deputy minister of the Dali Temple, the son-in-law of the Grand Secretary Fu on the surface, but secretly supported by Li Chang'e. It was he who sent people to intercept the wedding procession. In the book, he stayed true to his principles, knowing full well that the Murong royal family was beyond saving, yet still struggled to uphold the rightful succession. Even though he considered Li Chang'e a close friend, he did not support him until later. When I was completely heartbroken, I secretly cleared many obstacles for Li Chang'e. The night I abducted him, we held hands and talked through the night. We discussed the state of the world, the suffering of the people, and the rise and fall of the dynasty. All the historical knowledge I had in my head from middle school was completely drained. Even I, a princess, hold no hope for the Murong royal family. The loyalty he clung to as a subject might have been misguided. He was brought into Li Chang'e's camp early on. Outside, the flames of war rage, and blood rains down in the wind. The clamor of war does not disturb my peaceful days. I don't care about the well-being of my royal brother and mother, but I don't want to witness their deaths with my own eyes. The nunnery I reside in is like a secluded pure land. Perhaps it's due to the royal name, or maybe there truly is divine protection silently watching over. No one has come to disturb it. 13 One day, I sat in meditation with my back to the sun. The warm light stirred my drowsiness. I leaned into a large hand. Half of my face fit perfectly into that hand, as if it were the most fitting support. People are not clear-headed when they are not clear-headed, I heard vaguely. Princess, with such insincere heart, aren't you afraid that the Buddha will blame you? The voice carried a hint of laughter, yet seemed to be laced with indulgence. It instantly pierced through my muddled consciousness. It feels somewhat familiar. My heart began to race, an inexplicable tension and anticipation welling up inside me. Opening my eyes, the first thing I saw was a tall shadow. My figure was completely enveloped. At the age of 20, Li Changze could easily be pushed down by me. Now at 24, Li Changze's shadow alone could swallow me whole. Light filtered through the window lattice of the nunnery, casting mottled patterns on the ground in the tranquil atmosphere. His voice drifted over leisurely. The princess still drools in her sleep. His words carried a hint of teasing, along with a familiarity that had spanned 1,000 days. I snapped back to reality, my whole person in a daze. He seemed to find it amusing, withdrawing his hand and curling his fingers to gently flick my little bald head. Ouch! Though the gesture wasn't forceful, it jolted me awake instantly, leaving me both embarrassed and annoyed. Instinctively, I covered my face, trying to bury my head in the sand. I mumbled, "The benefactor has mistaken me. There is no princess in this nunnery." Li Changze sneered, full of certainty. "Even if you turn to ashes, I would still recognize you." With that, he directly passed his arm under my armpit and lifted me up, who was sitting cross-legged in a ball. My crossed legs remained firmly in place. Li Changze carried me, curled up in a ball, all the way into the bedroom. He moved with ease, clearly having already familiarized himself with the nunnery. 14. After placing me on the small couch, he knelt down on one knee. He is like a devout believer. He doesn't seem to be here for revenge, nor does he seem to be here to repay a favor. It's more like he's here to collect a debt. With a bit of a rogue demeanor, 4 years of fasting and chanting sutras, I thought I could achieve purity of mind, but now that I see him, I realize my mortal heart still remains. He has tanned a bit more. His physique has become more robust, and his movements exude a greater sense of composure and gallantry. That face is even more captivating, making it impossible to look away. As if imbued with an invisible magic, it stirred my lustful desires. A groundhog screamed in my heart, too close. His scent lingered around my nose, not foul, nor fragrant, just intense heat. In my panic, I helplessly raised my hand, amid a purr, trying to cover up my inner embarrassment with this Buddhist phrase. He yanked my hands down and held them tightly. Does the princess remember the debt she owes me? Back then in prison, as I stood up to leave, my gaze swept over his bound hands, and he caught them. He said, "We will meet again, I promise. Wait for me to collect my debt." But I plan to renege on the deal, patron. Those are all past events. I, a humble nun, have long forgotten them. Has the princess become addicted to being a nun? I stiffened my neck and said, "I am the nun Wukong." I tried to pull my hand away, but he wouldn't let go. "All right then, little nun Wukong. Do you have any plans to return to secular life?" I instinctively shook my empty head, avoiding his intense gaze. "Patron, this nunnery is home to bhikkhunis. As a man, you should not be here," he insisted. "But you are my wife." "I must take my wife back to secular life," I retorted. "Patron, we are already divorced. What is in the past is in the past. There should be no further entanglement between us. In the genealogy of our Li family temple, your name is still there." He is as stubborn as I am, squatting there, like an unmovable little mountain, clearly showing that he won't stop until he achieves his goal. 15. The connection between people can sometimes be so magical. Some may spend a lifetime together without ever sparking a flame, while others only need one glance to know it's for life. Back then, during that brief encounter, as I left with the alcohol taking effect, I inexplicably felt a pang of sorrow, as if bidding farewell to a lover. That's why I bit him. That bite was an attempt to vent the tangled emotions in my heart. It was as if I wanted to leave a mark on him that was uniquely mine in this way. If someone had asked me back then, "Do you believe in love at first sight?" I would have definitely answered, yes. But 4 years, not too long, not too short, enough to make those past troubles seem distant to me. It was just a hazy memory of the past, already blown away by the winds of time now in this nunnery. I spend each day with the green lamp and ancient Buddha, listening to the morning bells and evening drums, no scheming, no social complexities, just guarding my own little world, eat, sleep, and cultivate my mind. That's all I need, so don't even think about tempting me with your beauty again. I choose to close my eyes. However, the gaze of others is penetrating. Even if unseen, it can be felt upon oneself. Staring into his intense gaze, it's as if facing a raging inferno, ready to consume me, it seems. The charcoal I sent during the snowstorm wasn't in vain. It has completely ignited him. In a moment of confusion, my stomach inappropriately let out a loud rumble. It stood out sharply in the quiet atmosphere, immediately breaking the silence between the two of them. Lee Chang's eyes crinkled with amusement. "Let's go, let's have a meal first." It made me feel extremely embarrassed, as if I had lost this confrontation. My legs are numb. They had been numb for a long time. I hadn't uncrossed my legs the entire way, purely because they were so numb that I had lost all sensation. Without a word, he carefully uncrossed my legs and began massaging them. The pressure was just right, gradually dispelling the numbness and swelling. I stared at him in a daze. In my daze, a mix of emotions swirled within me. For a moment, I even forgot to stop him. 16 Since that day, Lee Changza has been staying at the nunnery. He doesn't even care about the newly conquered territory. He insists on lingering at the nunnery, entangled in matters of the heart. Fortunately, he doesn't disturb the peace of the other nuns, just picking on me alone. Because of him, I was forced to move to the most secluded spot by the back door of the nunnery, separated from the other nuns. Lee Changza forbade the other nuns from shaving my head again in just a few days. My hair had grown out a bit, soft and fuzzy. While I was meditating, he wrapped his arms around me, rubbing my head back and forth. I couldn't beat him, so I could only recite silently in my heart, "A monk does not strike a madman." The next day, I found a corner to lean against. Seeing this, Lee Changza was both angry and amused. He squatted down in front of me in a cheeky manner and started rubbing my face instead. In order to be a proper nun, I diligently completed the tasks assigned by the abbess every day, sweeping and cleaning the courtyard in the early morning. The sunlight still carried a hint of haziness. I took a broom and gently swept away the fallen leaves and debris on the ground. The persistent shadow Lee reappeared with a single kick. He scattered the pile of leaves I had gathered all over again. Childish, although I felt a bit helpless in my heart, I wasn't angry. Calmly, I picked up the broom again and swept for the second time. Consider it a way to temper my own temperament. Let him make a fuss. 17 Day after day, I repeat the same daily routine: eat, work, meditate, eat, meditate, sleep. Lee Changza began to think that I refused to leave with him because my life was too comfortable. He even went so far as to pressure the abbess into assigning me the task of fetching water. He stood to the side, arms crossed, convinced that my slender arms and legs couldn't possibly carry water. "Who are you looking down on?" "I'm not convinced at all." I hoisted the wooden bucket and swayed all the way to the riverbank. I only realized then that I couldn't even carry a bucket of water. The wooden bucket itself is quite heavy, let alone when filled with water. I could carry it one ladle at a time, but that would probably leave the nuns dying of thirst. I threw down the ladle and pointed back at him. "You, come over and fetch water." Lee Changza walked over unhurriedly. A mischievous smile played on his face. "Benefactor Lee Changza won't help you, but husband Lee Changza is willing to help. Which one do you choose? You're clearly teasing me on purpose." Hearing this, I got even angrier and glared at him, raising my voice. "Are you going to choose or not?" Lee Changza laughed heartily, and his laughter echoed through the deep valley. He reached out to grab the bucket, skillfully lifted the water, and headed towards the nunnery. I walked ahead of him, casually probing. "I'm not your wife." He quickened his pace, held my hand, and spoke in a light tone. "No matter who you are, since I married you, you are my wife. So, He understood after all. 18 Back in the palace again, everyone in the Li family was still alive, except for the child in the eldest sister-in-law's womb. Although Li Changyang could no longer go to the battlefield, his mind was worth 1,000 soldiers and 10,000 horses. Now that the task is accomplished, he has retired from public life and gone into seclusion with his sister-in-law. Li's father and mother, weary of the constant scheming and deceit, have passed the throne to Li Changze. Throughout history, every change of dynasty has inevitably been accompanied by endless debates and disputes. Li Changze dumped that pile of thorny mess onto Xue Liushu and went off to the temple to hide away in peace. Xue Liushu, with his sharp tongue and quick wit, finally managed to settle the date for the new emperor's ascension to the throne. After Li Changze ascended the throne, he intended to make me his empress. This immediately caused an uproar both inside and outside the court. A fallen princess, and one with a notorious reputation at that, how could she possibly become the empress? Li Changze then began to speak with his eyes wide open, telling lies without a hint of shame. He proclaimed to the world that the Murong royal family, ashamed of their failure to protect the nation, had all committed suicide out of guilt. As for me, my name is Ning Anli. I entered monastic life from a young age and carry with me the merit of my spiritual practice. If I become the queen, I will surely protect the nation and ensure its prosperity and flourishing. All rebuttals and doubts were suppressed by Li Changze's later diligent governance. Before the coronation ceremony, Li Changze gave me a grand wedding that night. The flickering candlelight in the room cast an intimate and tranquil atmosphere. I reached out first to pull at his clothes, feeling a pang of sympathy for the word slave. The tenderness lasted not a second, and he turned into a dog. No need to stuff more buns. He's quite hearty. Someone come, there's a little emperor here with a mind full of nonsense. 19 Afterward, when I came back with him, it wasn't because I was defeated by a bucket of water, but because, looking at the gently flowing river, the chaos in my heart was washed away. Perhaps staying in the nunnery would indeed allow me to live out my life smoothly, but aside from eating and sleeping, it seems there are no other ripples in life. The nuns in the temple all have faith in their hearts, reciting scriptures and managing their duties with contentment. That devoutness is the peace of their hearts and the anchor of their bodies. But what about me? Without faith, I am like rootless duckweed, drifting and swaying in this world, unable to find a true place to call my own. During the days spent with him, I had to admit that my heart was stirred again. He was so handsome, considered top tier even in modern standards. Why couldn't I indulge in a bit of romance? Emotions are like a high-stakes gamble, no one knows the outcome. But what if I get lucky? Don't shackle your future with too many constraints. I'll take it one step at a time. When it comes to our future together, there's another crucial reason. In ancient times, women had little freedom to move about, and I have no one to rely on. The world is so vast, and I want to see it. He'll have to be my guide. See you again. After hearing the first story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Next, there is another similar story. Let's continue to see. My sister and I were both afflicted with a love poison at the same time. The crown prince, to whom I was betrothed, carried my sister into the room. He looked at me with an apologetic expression. Ru'er is delicate and frail. Unlike you who have been on the battlefield for years and are strong and healthy, she cannot endure this. After he left, my love poison flared up, and my sister's coachman violated me. After returning to the capital, my sister was granted the title of crown princess. Due to losing my chastity before marriage, I became the crown prince's concubine. With unwavering devotion, I cleared all obstacles for him to ascend the throne, yet he ordered someone to force me to drink poisoned wine. Every time I think of you being kissed by the coachman's yellow teeth, I feel utterly disgusted. You have disgusted me for so many years. You should have died long ago. Out of mercy, I feared you would be lonely on your journey, so I have already ordered the imperial guards to send your grandfather's entire family on their way. I died with blood flowing from all 7 orifices, and my grandfather's family was slaughtered. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the day my sister and I were both afflicted with the love poison. Sister, I know you and the crown prince share a deep bond, but I am in such agony. Please, just let me have his highness for one night. If it were anyone else, my reputation would be ruined. I beg you, sister. Please grant me this. She knelt and kowtowed while crying, and actually fainted from weeping at my feet just like in the previous life. The crown prince, heartbroken, scooped her up in his arms and carried her into the bedchamber of the villa. His movements seemed as if he could hardly wait. She panted softly, leaning weakly against the crown prince, her breath as fragrant as orchids. My vision began to blur, but I could still see my sister's triumphant face from their retreating figures. Thinking of the misery in my past life, I wished I could immediately take the lives of that despicable couple, but right now, I can't do it. What should I do? It's getting hotter and hotter. And my consciousness is starting to fade. No, I can't go on like this. That coachman with the yellow teeth will be here soon, and I absolutely cannot let him humiliate me again. I drew the dagger from my sleeve and stabbed it fiercely into my arm. Pain surged through me, clearing my mind a little. Taking advantage of the clarity, I stumbled and staggered my way out. This is the crown prince's villa. If I remember correctly, there are other estates and villas belonging to important court officials nearby. I had just run out of the villa when the groom caught up with me. He paid no heed and dragged me back to the villa with all his might. Miss, don't struggle. The second young lady has given you to me. I've never known a woman in all my years, and I'll take good care of you, miss. With that, he lunged at me. His yellowed teeth bared. I endured the disgusting smell of horse dung and kicked him away with one foot. Don't hide, young lady. I specifically spent 10 coins to take a hot bath today. For this occasion, something I usually can't bear to do. It seems this was premeditated. In my previous life, I fainted too early and didn't realize that all of this was planned from the start. I pressed hard on the wound I had just made, the wound causing pain to surge again. Bringing my consciousness back to clarity, I sat up straight and said as gently as I could, "All right, I won't struggle anymore. Be gentle with me. Turn around, and I'll take it off myself." He wiped the drool from his mouth and turned around. I raised my hand and swiftly cut his throat. Blood splattered all over the floor. There's no time to pack up. While my mind is still clear, I need to escape quickly. Having been reborn, I can't let myself be ruined by that despicable couple again. I stumbled out of the villa and ran down the mountain. I remember there was a cold pool at the foot of the mountain, which could just suppress this love poison. Fortunately, I had followed my grandfather in battles for several years and had a strong physical foundation. Otherwise I really wouldn't have been able to hold on. It's too hot. I don't know how much longer I can last. Before I reached the cold pool, I encountered the regent who was suffering from the poison's effects. I had little interaction with him in my past life, only hearing that this person was afflicted with a strange poison that flared up every month. When it struck, he would become frenzied and murderous, and no one dared to approach him. He also passed away at an early age. The waves of heat inside his body grew increasingly intense, and even tearing open wounds to suppress the toxicity was gradually losing its effect. Better you die than me. With a hardened heart, I thought, Regent, my apologies. I stepped forward and sealed his acupoints. He lay on the ground, glaring at me with bloodshot eyes, his gaze filled with fury, gently undressing. The atmosphere grew intimate and lingering. Later, he broke through the sealed acupoints, and, amidst the storm, we indulged in a wild, almost delirious madness. The clouds dispersed and the rain ceased. I tapped his pressure point to make him sleep, then turned and left without a backward glance. By the time I returned to the general's manor, it was already the next day. I climbed over the wall and slipped back into my own courtyard. I had just finished washing up when a maid came to deliver a message. The crown prince was in the front hall, seething with anger, waiting for me to come and answer his questions. What are these two planning to do now? Before even stepping into the front hall, Jianguro's sobbing could be heard, her voice choked with tears. "Father, I never imagined that my sister could be so vicious. She actually poisoned me with a love potion. Fortunately, brother, the crown prince came to my rescue yesterday, or my reputation would have been ruined. My reputation doesn't matter, but I'm afraid it would tarnish the honor of our general's manor. My maid saw that my sister slept with my coachman yesterday. Sister, how could you be so careless about the reputation of our general's manor?" The crown prince clasped his hands and bowed slightly. "I had no choice but to intervene yesterday. I hope the general will not hold it against me. The father quickly supported the crown prince. Your highness, since the matter is already settled, everything shall be decided by your highness. Father, what decision do you want the crown prince to make? Your daughter is wronged, won't you even ask for my side of the story? I stepped forward as I spoke. Unfilial daughter, after committing such a grave mistake, how dare you not kneel and apologize to the crown prince and your sister? As he spoke, my father raised his hand to strike. I grabbed his wrist and pushed it away. It's always like this. He always dotes on this stepsister as if she were the apple of his eye, never caring whether I live or die. After all, the heart is naturally biased. Sister, please don't let me come between you and father or the crown prince. It's all my fault. I should have dashed my head against a wall and died yesterday, so as not to tarnish your reputation. She stood up as she spoke and rushed toward a nearby pillar. The crown prince was quick to react and caught her in his arms. She nestled in the crown prince's embrace, crying so hard she could barely breathe. I glanced at them disdainfully. Enough, I can't be bothered to watch your act. If you have something to say, say it, otherwise, I won't keep you company. I turned around to leave. You have committed such immoral acts, proving yourself unworthy of your position. I will report to the emperor and annul our engagement. Since I have already consummated my relationship with Rua, I must take responsibility for her. I will request the emperor's decree to appoint Rua as the crown princess. As for you, considering our childhood friendship, I cannot bear to see you married off to a stable hand. I might reluctantly accept you as a concubine. The prince spoke with great righteousness. I am truly grateful to you. I was almost moved to tears. In their previous lives, they were just as despicable. After having the groom humiliate me, they took advantage of the situation and made me a concubine. Not only did he consolidate the power of the Ministry of Revenue, but he also took control of the military authority in my hands and the influence of my grandfather's general's residence, making them all his own. Your Highness the Crown Prince, your schemes are so obvious they're practically hitting me in the face. I sneered coldly. How you all scheme and struggle is your own business. If you think you can take me as a concubine, you are dreaming. I no longer paid any attention to their disgusting expressions and turned to leave. Behind me, the sounds of crying and cursing. I couldn't be bothered to listen. None of it was any good anyway. In this new life, I will surely carve out a future for myself. Returning to my room, I bathed and changed clothes, preparing to enter the palace and meet the emperor. Once the imperial decree of marriage is issued, there will be no turning back. When I went to the audience, the crown prince was already in the imperial study. Also in the imperial study was the current regent, with whom I had a fleeting romance that day. Father, Jiang Ruoli has harmed her own sister, lost her chastity before marriage, and is morally unworthy of the position of crown princess, the crown prince declared vehemently. Do you admit to what the crown prince has said? Emperor Zhaohe narrowed his eyes slightly, a cold glint flashing in them. I do not admit guilt. If your majesty does not believe me, you may order the Dali temple to conduct a thorough investigation. I straightened my back, neither humble nor arrogant. What does the regent think? Emperor Showa, his expression unreadable, turned his gaze to the regent. I believe it is inappropriate for the Dali temple to intervene in this matter, as it would damage the dignity of the royal family. It would be better to follow the crown prince's suggestion and appoint Jiang Yuro as the crown princess. As for General Jiang becoming a concubine, that matter can be discussed further. Regent Fu Moting bowed respectfully. The hall fell silent, and Emperor Showa's eyes shifted among the three of us. After a long while, he summoned the attendant and said, "Draft the decree." Soon, the news that the emperor had decreed to appoint Jiang Yuro, the legitimate second daughter of the Minister of Revenue, as the crown princess spread throughout the capital. At the same time, rumors that Jiang Ruoli, the legitimate eldest daughter of the Minister of Revenue, had lost her chastity before marriage and had her engagement with the crown prince annulled spread like wildfire, sweeping through the entire capital in just one day. After reporting to me, my maid Qingxue was still indignant on my behalf. In this world, complaining is the most useless thing. The night was as dark as ink, and the moonlight was dappled. I picked up the red-tasseled spear my grandfather gave me and leaped into the courtyard in a single bound. I practiced for half an hour. My mind is filled with fleeting images of my past life, sisters scheming against me, a lover turning away, my maternal grandfather's family lying in a pool of blood in my past life. I was truly blind and foolish, giving my sincere heart to the wrong person. I holstered my gun and went back inside. An unexpected guest had arrived. Regent Fu Moting stood with his hands behind his back. Roaring winds give rise to heroes, spirits dance in all directions. Miss Jiang, truly a heroine of our great Wei dynasty. Regent, it is improper for you to visit my chamber so late at night. I ignored him and poured myself a cup of water. At the foot of Qianlu Mountain that day, did Miss Jiang enjoy herself? I spat out the water in my mouth, turning to meet his lowered, smiling eyes. It seems my investigation was correct. That person really is you. What the regent is saying, this humble woman does not understand. I turned my head away from him, but he suddenly closed the distance, placing a dagger against my neck. Miss Jiang, how do you wish to die? For the sake of our one-night connection, I shall grant your wish. Ha! What a reversal of blame. That day, I was afflicted with a love poison and desperately went down the mountain to find a cold pond to suppress it. On the way, I happened to run into you, and you forced yourself on me, and now you dare turn around and accuse me. Suppressing the trembling in my heart, I steeled myself and decided to deny it outright. What could you possibly do to me? Nonsense. I could feel that I was the one being violated. Seeing the slight hesitation in his eyes, I pressed on. You were completely out of your mind from the poison, with no awareness at all. How could you possibly tell you were being violated? If you really could, why did you only come to me today? I pinched my thigh hard, and tears immediately welled up in my eyes. You've ruined my innocence, made the crown prince despise me, and cost me the position of crown princess. Does the regent now intend to silence me? If that's the case, I might as well go along with your wishes. Although the regent is short-lived, he is still a powerful ally. If I can secure his support, I might just stand a chance against the crown prince. I snatched the dagger from his hand and stabbed it fiercely toward my own heart. I'm taking a gamble. Sure enough, he slapped the dagger out of my hand with a single strike. Tears streamed down my face as I said, since you've taken everything and now deny it, and I'm already infamous in the capital with nowhere to go, I might as well die to prove my innocence. I bent down to pick up the dagger from the ground, but he suddenly wrapped his arms around me in a gentle and soothing voice. He said, all right, I was only joking. Will you marry me? After saying this, without waiting for my response, he leaned in and captured my lips, kissing me tenderly. If you don't say anything, I'll take it as your agreement. The imperial decree for the marriage will arrive tomorrow, so rest assured and prepare to become the princess regent. It was only much later that I heard him say in truth. When he found out it was me, he couldn't have been happier. However, the thought that his life was nearing its end brought him a sense of loss, until the rumors of my loss of virginity spread throughout the capital. He finally hardened his heart. Even if we couldn't grow old together, he still had to plan for my lifelong peace soon. The news that Jiang Ruoli, the eldest daughter of the Minister of Revenue, was betrothed to the Regent King spread through every conversation in the capital. I entered the palace to express my gratitude and handed over my military authority. Looking at the Showa Emperor's expression, I understood everything in my heart. Not only the crown prince, but how could the Showa Emperor not be wary of me in the general's mansion? I originally thought that by giving up military power early in this life, striving for nothing, and living as an immortal couple with Fu Moting, everything would be fine. But sometimes, even if you don't fight, they won't let you go. Some people are so narrow-minded that they find your very existence and breath irritating. In my previous life, I helped the crown prince strategize step by step, eliminating treacherous officials and securing the borders. So I knew some clues. The poison that afflicted the regent, Fu Moting, was most likely administered by Emperor Zhao He. It is said that before the late emperor passed away, he intended to pass the throne to Fu Moting. His ambitions lay elsewhere, so he passed the throne to the current Emperor Showa. Emperor Showa had an unstable foundation and insufficient ability. Fearing instability in the state and turmoil in the court, the late emperor appointed Fu Moting as the regent to assist in governance. After all these years, Fu Moting had long since returned power, yet he still would not let him go. Perhaps it was resentment towards the late emperor's favoritism, or perhaps it was fear of Fu Moting's reputation. Even a loyal brother who served him with utter devotion could be killed without hesitation, let alone a mere general's residence. The reason he didn't take action himself and left it to the crown prince was simply to give the crown prince an opportunity to establish his authority unexpectedly. Before I could even marry the regent, the events of my past life had already begun to unfold ahead of schedule. On the 10th day of the 5th month, the 15th year of the Showa era, by imperial decree, the general's mansion was suspected of colluding with the enemy and treason, and all its members have been imprisoned. Fearing that I would worry, Fu Moting sent someone to deliver a message to me early in the morning. He assured me that he would do everything in his power to mediate and urged me to stay calm and not act rashly. Shortly after his messenger left, Jiang Yuro arrived. "Good day, sister. I just heard the news about the general's mansion this morning and came especially to congratulate you. In the future, on the road to the underworld, you won't be alone." At that moment, I knew she had also been reborn. "Do you think that by clinging to the regent, everything will be fine? It seems you've forgotten, sister, that the regent is a short-lived man." She spoke with a tone full of sarcasm. Since being appointed as the crown princess by imperial decree, she couldn't even be bothered to pretend anymore. "What exactly do you want from me? I have no interest in wealth or power, nor will I stand in your way. I only wish to live quietly in a corner and survive." "Must you really drive us to extinction? I want you dead, along with your hypocritically noble grandfather and his entire family. I've lived in your shadow since childhood. As long as you're alive, no one will ever see my worth. In the mouths of others, it's always you, the legitimate eldest daughter. How stunningly beautiful, how a woman's valor rivals a man's." She was somewhat paranoid and frantic. "Since you are also reborn, you should know that a great battle is imminent at the frontier. Yet, for your own selfish reasons, would you disregard the nation's safety?" I looked at her in disbelief. "Ha ha ha ha, my dear sister, you really are quite naive. Is your general's manner the only one in Great Wei that can lead the army? When the war begins, my uncle will request an imperial decree to lead the expedition. After this, there will be no more general's manor in Great Wei." She spoke so lightly, while I was so angry my chest heaved. "Madman, do you not know that war is no child's play? The northern Qiong are fierce and brutal. It's not as simple as your incompetent uncle going out for a stroll with his birds. Even so, the general's manor has long since relinquished its power. Why must you pursue us to the very end? My dear sister, as long as the general's manor remains alive, the flames of war could be reignited at any moment. Only the dead can truly bring peace of mind. Otherwise, when would others ever have a chance to rise? Your very existence blocks the path of others." After saying this, she laughed heartily and left. What should I do? Even in this second life, am I doomed to repeat the same mistakes as the last? No, it has already started to change, hasn't it? And Fu Moting, yes, Fu Moting. I couldn't wait any longer, so I got up and went to the regent's mansion. But as soon as I entered, I saw Fu Moting spit out a mouthful of blood. "Fu Moting." I quickly took out my handkerchief to wipe it for him. "It's nothing, I know my time is short. Yet I still dragged you into this turmoil. Do you resent me?" I shook my head, tears streaming down uncontrollably as I cried. She gently wiped away my tears. "It's nothing, though I no longer hold the power I once did. Before I go, I will make sure everything is arranged properly to protect you for a lifetime." I held him, sobbing uncontrollably. "I'm sorry. It's my fault for dragging you into this." He patted my shoulder and motioned for me to sit down. He stood up and twisted the vase beside the soft couch, opening the secret chamber. "These are some of the private assets of the regent's mansion, some farm estates and shops. I have already transferred them under your name. Steward Shu Fu will handle everything properly for you when the time comes. As for the public assets of the regent's mansion, I fear you may not be able to hold on to them after I am gone. What are you doing? Are you giving me your last words? Did I marry you just for your money?" I glared at him angrily. "I have liked you since I was 12 years old, very much so, but you were the crown prince's fiancé, So all these years, I never dared to entertain any improper thoughts. Now, heaven has brought you to my side, fulfilling my deepest wish. I originally intended to tell you this after we were married. But with the court in turmoil, I fear there may not be enough time. Rest assured, I will protect your maternal family, not just try, but I will definitely do it. I could no longer control myself and, disregarding all decorum, I held him tightly and burst into loud sobs. 3 days later, the imperial decree was issued. In his benevolence, the emperor, considering the past merits of the general's household, ordered only the old general to be executed, while the rest of the unrelated individuals were exiled to Lingnan. The day of the execution was set to take place after our wedding. Should I still kneel and thank the emperor for his great mercy? I arrived at the prison and saw my grandfather, who was as thin as a withered old man in his twilight years. "Girl, don't cry. Don't disgrace the dignity of our general's manor," my grandfather said, his eyes still sharp and spirited. "It's a pity I won't be able to see you get married. My dear, take care of yourself. The regent is someone you can rely on, unlike your father, who tormented your mother and caused her early death. Now that the general's manor is safe, sacrificing just me is the best outcome. I am content." I wiped the tears from my face and said, "All right." June the 8th, 1940, the grand wedding proceeded as planned, with a bridal procession stretching for miles at the Minister of Revenue's residence. No dowry had been prepared, but Fu Moting had made arrangements well in advance. He said, "This is a once-in-a-lifetime event, and he would never let me feel wronged." We lay down together in our clothes, spending the night in silence. The next day, I got up early to see my grandfather off on his final journey. The guillotine fell, and blood stained the ground. This was the loyal soul who had dedicated his entire life to the Great Wei, not dying on the battlefield, but perishing in the schemes of the court. How could this not chill one's heart? But there is something even more disheartening. My uncles were attacked by bandits during their exile, and none survived. I am truly unfilial. My long-dried eyes can no longer shed a single tear to mourn them. I erected a cenotaph for my uncles and their families beside my grandfather's grave, on Mount Wuwang, where they often went for outings during their lives. I suppose they must have liked it. By the time I returned to the mansion, it was already very late. I drifted into a nightmare, sometimes seeing my mother's face from my childhood, other times my grandfather's severed head rolling on the ground. In a daze, I cried and woke and cried. After about 7 or 8 days like this, I could no longer hold on and fainted. When I opened my eyes again, the imperial physician was repeatedly offering congratulations. I had been pregnant for over a month. "Grandfather, rest in peace. I will surely avenge you." I bowed 3 times before my maternal grandfather's memorial tablet in the darkroom, then turned around. "Fu Moting, do you want to be emperor? In my previous life, I was able to help the crown prince ascend the throne. In this life, I can help you." This prince originally had no such ambition, but now, I am willing to strive for it for you. However, with my current health, I'm afraid my wife will have to endure hardships for the rest of our lives. He took a step back and bowed to me with a cupped hand salute. "It's all right. Your poison can be cured. The antidote is in the emperor's hands. We still have time." He also realized that the emperor won't let us live, and our child after he left, who would protect him? This child is truly my lucky star, coming at just the right time, just in time to lend us a hand and turn the tables against the odds. July the 13th, Showa 15, urgent report from the border. The northern Qiong launched a surprise attack. Jiang Yuro's uncle, Pei Nianfei, led the troops into battle. On July 28th, the northern Qiong breached Xiaoyang Pass, and Pei Nianfei died in battle. The emperor panicked, and the crown prince panicked as well. Once Xiaoyang Pass was breached, the next targets would be Pinggu Pass and Hanyang Pass. Hanyang Pass is located on the plains. In other words, if Pinggu Pass is breached again, the northern Qiong can advance unimpeded and directly capture the capital. The nation is in peril. After a day of heated debates in the Golden Luan Hall, no one dared to take up the commander's seal again. At this moment, someone mentioned the regent's consort. A woman resting at home during pregnancy, was once a heroine. No Less impressive than any man, the emperor ordered someone to summon me to the palace. I declined, citing my poor health and my husband's critical condition. Passed down again, rejected again. After an unknown number of times, the emperor and his courtiers, accompanied by palace attendants, personally delivered the imperial decree, appointing me as the general of agile cavalry and ordering me to set off for battle immediately. I publicly defied the imperial decree. Everyone was shocked. I am now with child, and the prince's life hangs by a thread, so I truly cannot lead the campaign. The crown prince, with his unparalleled literary and military strategies, is unmatched in the world. I dare to implore your majesty to revoke the order and select another capable general. I knelt upright, speaking each word clearly and resolutely. The crown prince is the foundation of the state and must not be moved. After speaking, Emperor Shoa's sharp gaze swept over me. How can you go to war? I am with child, and my husband is in critical condition. If my husband can recover and stay by my side, I can go to war with peace of mind. As the words fell, I saw a murderous intent in Emperor Shoa's eyes, yet I still met his gaze, not yielding an inch. I'm taking a gamble with foreign enemies at the gates. Is he willing to become a ruler of a fallen nation? Attendants, I have recently obtained a 9 revolutions soul-returning elixir. Fetch it quickly and administer it to the regent. Emperor Shoa relented. I won the bet. Fu Moting took the 9 revolutions soul-returning pill. After 1 hour, the court physician felt his pulse and nodded to me. I knelt down, received the imperial edict, and bowed my head to the ground, saying, "Your servant thanks your majesty for your great kindness. I will spare no effort, remain loyal and steadfast, and continue to serve until death." We traveled light and set off the very next day. With this departure, I directly ordered the complete emptying of the regent's residence, leaving not even a chicken or a dog behind. If the day comes when my innocence is proven, I will not fail the world. Having fought at the border for many years, I am well aware of the brutality of the northern Qiong people, but it was only upon arriving at Pinggu Pass that I realized just how unrestrained the northern Qiong had become this time. After capturing Xiaoyang Pass, they did not advance quickly. Instead, they moved slowly, slaughtering cities along the way, killing, burning, looting, and humiliating women and children utterly devoid of conscience. Thus, they had just reached Pinggu Pass. Pinggu Pass is easy to defend but hard to attack. As long as no weaknesses are exposed, holding it for several months should not be a problem. Fu Moting and I discussed it, and we concluded that a direct counterattack is not the best way to quickly repel the enemy. The northern Qiong people are born with brute strength, bloodthirsty and warlike. In a head-on confrontation, we have no chance of winning. From the northern Qiong to Pinggu Pass, it is a small country, and their battle lines are already stretched thin. Their rear is surely vulnerable. The best strategy now is to besiege the enemy's capital to rescue the besieged ally. Thus, Fu Moting led 5,000 elite soldiers and 100 death-defying warriors, disguised and setting out, detouring from the rear, heading straight for the northern Qiong's capital. I stayed behind at Pinggu Pass to provide cover. 10 days later, the northern Qiong emperor was assassinated, causing turmoil in both the court and the country. The princes, fighting for the throne, were caught up in frequent civil wars and had no time to spare for external matters. The northern Qiong army hastily withdrew their troops, and we seized the opportunity to encircle them from the rear, annihilating over 100,000 of their soldiers in one fell swoop. The northern Qiong suffered heavy losses and were unable to wage war for another decade. They submitted a petition for peace and sent a princess for marriage alliance. I know of this princess in my past life. She was sent to Emperor Shoa's bedchamber. The night of passion was too short, the sun rose high, and from then on, the emperor no longer held morning court, regardless of the nation's rise or fall, seeking immortality and elixirs for eternal life. For now, there is only one word: wait. Using the excuse of having a threatened miscarriage, I refused to return to the capital to report on my duties and stayed at the border now, with 300,000 troops under my command, and most of the generals are deputy commanders who followed my maternal grandfather in battle for many years. Emperor Shoa, even if I proclaim myself king here at Xiaoyang Pass, what can you do to me? However, being a loyal minister and capable general. I still wrote a memorial to express my sincerity. Once my health stabilizes, I will lead the troops back to the capital. But as I waited, the emperor became so engrossed in seeking the path to immortality that he completely forgot about me. The crown prince, in the name of overseeing state affairs, issued several edicts in a row, all of which I directly threw into the brazier. Don't be angry, anger harms the body. Fu Morshuan held me and gently kissed my lips. Now that the overall situation is about to be settled, and my child is about to be born, I always feel uneasy, afraid that something might go wrong at the last moment. We sat down together and carefully reviewed the current situation again, fearing that we might have overlooked something. They schemed with all their might, yet someone still found a loophole in the blink of an eye. The new year had passed, spring arrived suddenly, with alternating warmth and lingering cold. Xiaoyang Pass, located in the northern region, was still very cold. My body has become increasingly heavy, and the court physician says it's twins, and there's a high chance of premature birth. I brought Qingxue to deliver food to Fu Moting. During this time, he has been training troops day and night, arranging formations, and strategizing without a moment's rest, all to secure a path of survival for me and our children. Yes, in truth, what we want is as simple as it gets, just wanting to live. Why is it so hard? You see, in such cold weather, you're actually sweating. He really didn't like to talk, just looked at me with a silly smile, letting me wipe the thin sweat from his forehead. A chill ran through my abdomen, and pain surged. I looked in disbelief at the dagger embedded in my stomach. Qingxue held the hilt with a sharp, fierce look in her eyes. It was the dagger I had given her for self-defense when we withdrew from the regent's mansion, and now it was thrust straight into my abdomen. My child, who hadn't even had the chance to see this world. Fu Moting ended Qingxue's life with a single sword strike. He held me in his arms, and a patch of red plum blossoms bloomed in the snow. He cried, begging me not to die, like a helpless child. I wiped his tears. Mo Ting, save the child. After saying that, I completely sank into darkness, surrounded by endless darkness. I touched my abdomen. It was flat. There was no child. Remembering Qingxue's strike, I shed tears. I must be dead now. The child must be dead too. I never thought that even after being reborn, I would still be powerless to change anything. Nothing can be kept. What is meant to be will come, and what is not meant to be should not be forced. What is meant to leave cannot be kept. I am just a piece of trash. Rain began to fall from the sky, and I trudged through the mud, not knowing the road ahead, yet not daring to stop, because stopping would bring back the memories of those who died tragically, the scattered, irrecoverable bodies of my uncles, my grandfather's head, his eyes still wide open in death. Fu Moting went mad, spat blood, and died, his body collapsing to the ground, never to rise again. The rain grew heavier and heavier, the sound of the downpour drowning out all other noises, and the world fell into an eerie silence. I could hear faint rustling sounds, as if someone were whispering, murmuring softly, gently narrating something, but when I listened closely, there was nothing to be heard. I dared not stop, humbly pleading with the gods, could you give me one more chance? I never believed in gods or ghosts before, but now that I've been reborn, I do believe gods and ghosts are the last glimmer of hope I can grasp in the despair of this turbulent world. Though they may be illusory, it's still better than nothing at all. I struggled forward, not knowing how long I had walked, until I could no longer take another step. In the beginning of chaos, the first light of dawn appeared. The sky had already cleared, but I was too exhausted to hold on and fell into a deep sleep. I gently opened my eyes, and what met my gaze was my grandfather's weary expression and my uncle. They were all there. Have I been reborn again? Heaven has truly answered my request. I hugged my grandfather and cried uncontrollably. Don't cry, my girl. You're already a mother. How can you still be so prone to tears? If this continues, you'll end up teaching your child to be a little crybaby too. Hearing my grandfather's voice, I didn't quite understand. Child? What child? It was only then that I saw Fu Moting standing behind my grandfather. Behind him were two women, each holding a child. As my thoughts cleared, I realized I hadn't died, and neither had the children. What is all this about? What about my maternal grandparents? As if noticing the confusion in my eyes, Fu Moting stepped forward and embraced me. I'll explain everything to you in detail later. For now, let's take a look at our children. 2 young women approached. Congratulations, Your Highness. 1 little princess and 1 little prince, a perfect pair. Looking at the 2 little dumplings, as delicate as carved pink jade, my heart instantly melted. I held them for a while, but before long, I felt exhaustion creeping in again. Fu Moting had the wet nurse take the children away, then held me as we lay down. Liar, just sleep, I'll be right here with you. I fell into a deep sleep, and this time, I slept for another 3 days. After waking up again, I asked Fu Moting about the whole story from beginning to end. It turned out that the person executed that day was a death row prisoner Fu Moting had found, disguised to replace my maternal grandfather during the exile. My uncles were indeed ambushed by the Crown Prince's men, but Fu Moting's men arrived and rescued everyone. Later, the situation became unstable and we were struggling, so they kept it from me to avoid complications. Liar, I told you I would protect your maternal grandfather's family, and I will definitely do it. Looking at the man's proud and eager expression for praise, I kissed him on the lips instead. He held me and gently sucked on my lips, his movements so tender they reminded me of that day at the foot of the mountain. That's just how he is. It has now been 3 months since I gave birth. Because of Qingshua's stab, which landed right between the 2 children, they only suffered minor superficial injuries and were not harmed at their core. I fainted and was unable to give birth. However, by the grace of heaven, there was a peculiar and skilled military doctor who could perform a caesarean section to save me. But in the end, being stabbed and undergoing a caesarean section still took a toll on my health. That's why it took so long for me to wake up from the coma. The whispers I heard in the rain were real, not illusions. I truly thank the heavens for giving me this life. My health has almost fully recovered, and we must begin making arrangements to return to the palace. For more than half a year, the emperor has been exclusively doting on the northern Qiong princess, neglecting state affairs day after day. He sought immortality and searched for the elixir of life. At first, the crown prince was diligent and took on the heavy responsibility of overseeing state affairs. Later, for some unknown reason, he also became entangled with that princess from the northern Qiong. Openly and unashamedly, father and son shared the same woman, disregarding all moral principles and becoming the laughingstock of the world. The crown princess and the crown prince have been in constant turmoil every day because of this northern Qiong princess. According to the news from our people, in the court, from the prime minister and high-ranking officials down to the chief of guards, many have become admirers of this northern Qiong princess. Those in power all seek immortality, and the taxes are getting heavier, making the people suffer unbearably. The 16th year of the Showa era, the 8th day of the 5th month, guarded by my grandfather and uncle at Xiaoyang Pass to prevent the northern Qiong from taking advantage of the chaos, Fu Moting and I led 200,000 troops, fully prepared, marching south under the banner of cleansing the court and eliminating the treacherous consort. Heading straight for the capital, the people had long suffered unbearable hardships, and rebels from various regions continuously joined our southern expedition. We advanced without shedding blood, crossing Pinggu and Hanyang, and by the time we reached the foot of the capital city, our forces had grown to 500,000. The capital city's garrison has no more than 150,000 soldiers. The capital city's garrison consists of the former emperor's old troops. Old General Wu Pengfei, a man of unyielding integrity, would rather die than surrender. Lord Regent, I have watched you grow up, and I truly do not wish to see you seize power and usurp the throne for your own selfish desires. As he spoke, tears streamed down his aged face. Fu Moting dismounted, flicked his robe, and knelt down. I dismounted and knelt beside him. Behind me, the soldiers all knelt down in unison. I am unfilial and have failed the late emperor's trust in entrusting me with the responsibility of regent. Now that wars have broken out across the land, the people are suffering. Since my youth, I have often listened to my father's teachings and dare not forget them. To hold a high position in the court is to worry for the ruler. To be far from the court is to worry for the people. This is what it means to be a true servant of the state, and the old general is such a man. I, though lacking in talent, Today beseech the old general on behalf of the people to open a path of survival for all. Under heaven, restore the peace and prosperity of our great Wei. After speaking, Fu Moting heavily kowtowed, pressing his head to the ground. 500,000 soldiers roared in unison, their voices like a tidal wave. We kneel and beg the old general to open the gates. The sound thundered like war drums, piercing the heavens. Old General Wu wept bitterly. Very well, open the gates, former emperor. This old servant has failed you. With that, he prepared to take his own life. Fu Moting fired his sleeve crossbow, directly knocking away the old general's sword. Old General Wu, I hold the late emperor's edict in my hand. The old general has never failed the late emperor's trust. As he spoke, Fu Moting raised the bright yellow edict in his hand and unrolled it. By the mandate of heaven, the emperor decrees, our ninth son, Fu Moting, is of noble character and deeply resembles us, surely capable of inheriting the great legacy. However, his aspirations lie elsewhere, so we pass the throne to our second son, Fu Molan. Although the second son possesses the talent to govern the state, he lacks the capacity to tolerate others and holds himself in too high regard. In the future, he may cause strife among brothers and turmoil in the court and the nation. If, in days to come, the second son diligently serves the people and maintains deep fraternal bonds, it would be excellent. If he lacks the virtue of a ruler, our ninth son may take his place. So it is decreed. As Fu Moting's words fell, the old general swiftly opened the city gate and snatched the imperial edict from Fu Moting's hand. Tears and mucus streamed down like a torrential downpour. The army was stationed outside the city, and we led 50,000 troops straight toward the imperial palace. The imperial guards numbered no more than 10,000, and their commander, Qi Jialiang, was the crown prince's lackey. Vowing never to surrender, the two sides plunged into a chaotic battle. Although we hold the advantage, Fu Moting is not happy originally with the late emperor's edict. He could have directly raised troops to force his way into the palace. There was no need to wait this long. But he said that in the struggle for power, no matter who ultimately ascends the throne, bloodshed and sacrifice are inevitable. What does victory matter if the souls lost beneath the sword are all citizens of our great Wei? I exchanged a glance with Fu Moting. Capture the ringleader and the gang will collapse, while I fired 3 consecutive arrows from the concealed crossbow in my sleeve. Fu Moting closed in with his spear and slit Qi Jialiang's throat. The commander is dead. Surrender and you will be spared. The imperial guards gradually laid down their weapons. We advanced unhindered and entered the Golden Luan Hall without any further obstacles. The ministers huddled in a corner, not daring to make a sound. The emperor hid behind the dragon throne, while the crown prince stood in front of him, surrounded by layers of hidden guards left by the late emperor. Fu Moting took out the late emperor's edict and threw it at the leader of the shadow guards, Qing Lang. From now on, you and your men will be my shadow guards. Dismissed. The leader of the shadow guards respectfully handed the edict back to Fu Moting. Yes, the crown prince, realizing his power was slipping away, collapsed to the ground in fear. Take them away. The crown prince and the emperor were escorted to the imperial prison. The leading prime minister and grand tutor carefully examined the imperial edict and respectfully presented it with both hands. Long live the emperor, may he reign for 10,000 years. The ministers followed with a mountain cry, long live the emperor, may he live 10,000 years. The first thing Fu Moting did after taking over the court was to identify and execute all those who had been intimate with the northern Qiong princess. For a time, everyone in the court was in fear for their lives, staying behind closed doors, afraid of being implicated. As many as 100 officials and attendants were purged, all beheaded and displayed as a warning to others. I went to the prison and met Jiang Guo. She still had that same look of hating evil as if it were her enemy. Jiang Guoli, you shameless slut who sleeps with anyone, you've already been defiled by a stable hand. Does Fu Moting know about it? I want to see Fu Moting. Let me out, let me out. I should be the Empress of Great Wei. You've mistaken me for someone else. She seemed to have gone a bit mad. I approached her, and she suddenly pulled out a hairpin from her head and lunged at me. I kicked the hairpin out of her hand. The guards came and subdued her, Pinning her to the ground, she looked at me with venomous eyes. Why can't you keep pretending to be crazy and foolish? I lifted her chin. Jiang Ruoli, I haven't lost yet. I am still the crown princess now, and I will be the empress in the future. As for you, you're just a worthless woman who slept with a stable hand. Ha ha ha. The maid stepped forward and slapped her twice, causing her to spit out a large mouthful of blood along with 2 teeth. I glanced at this maid. Not bad, truly worthy of being from the hidden guards. Do you know that slandering the current empress is punishable by extreme penalty? I casually emphasized the word empress, but she went mad. I am the empress. I am the crown princess, the future empress. You are all traitors and rebels, sister. Back then, in order to secure the position of crown princess, you didn't hesitate to poison yourself with a love potion. Now, I shall grant your wish, allowing you to stay with the crown prince for the rest of your life. I can't be bothered to argue with a madwoman anymore. Take her away and lock her up with the deposed crown prince. Have someone keep an eye on her, just make sure she doesn't die. A long time later, I heard she had gone mad. The deposed crown prince would beat and kick her every day, blaming her for scheming to take the crown princess's position back then. How ridiculous. Has he forgotten how eagerly he went along with it back then? On the 28th day of the 9th month in the 16th year of the Showa era, Emperor Showa wrote a self-criticism edict, publicly admitting to the nation his framing of the general's manner, his persecution of the regent Fu Moting, and his pursuit of immortality over the past year, which had led him to neglect the welfare of the people, declaring himself unworthy of being a ruler. At the same time, the abdication edict was issued on September 29. Fu Moting ascended the throne, establishing the reign title as Yonghe. He implemented benevolent governance, and the whole world celebrated together. On the same day, an imperial decree was issued, appointing me as the empress of the central palace, our son as the crown prince, and our daughter as the eldest princess. Extra chapter. On the night of the coronation ceremony, he came to my bedchamber. Do you know, liar, when I fell in love with you? The young emperor, handsome and majestic, gazed at me with tender eyes. I don't know, tell me. I leaned against his chest, listening to his strong heartbeat, feeling completely at ease. That year when you were 12, at the palace banquet, your sword dance captivated the entire hall, and my heart trembled along with it. Fu Moting's eyes were filled with affection as he lowered his head to kiss me. I pushed him away. Fu Moting, there's something I actually lied to you about. He pressed closer again, kissing my earlobe. Tell me, that day, at the foot of the mountain, you were actually forced. I know, the long night stretches on, dark hair entwined, soft panting breaths, tender moans lingering. I have found the one I love, and I hope you find the one you seek. Joyful mornings, peaceful evenings, year after year. After hearing the 2 stories above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.